Yo and hello everybody, Mike here, Moynihan and Rich Klein.
And get used to seeing us on Tuesday nights. We'll be doing this quite a bit this month.
Yeah, and especially you and me together.
That's what I was saying, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it could be 2 or 3 times this month on a Tuesday night.
Man, you guys out there are going to be in for a treat. No. Welcome to the show, everybody. Hobby Hotline Overtime, Tuesday night edition. And as always, we'll be following along on comments. We'll be following along on things that you guys say. So feel free to, write a lot of good stuff. You
and put
can
the link
also,
in, so call in, please.
yeah, it's just me and Rich. So anybody that wants to come on, I just put the link into the stream, into the chat. So anybody that wants to join in, feel free. Rich, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing fine. It's a Tuesday night. You and I are in Texas. For May, this is a cold snap. It's going to get warm real quickly.
I know. It's in the 60s here today. It was in the 50s most of the day, which is very unusual for us in mid or early May. I guess it's not mid-May yet. And but don't worry, by Thursday we'll be sweating our rears off.
They said 90s for the weekend. And speaking of that, John Keating, one of our fellow hosts and somebody who's always on point, is talking about your new series. So why don't you introduce that to people watching who may not be familiar with what the new series is?
Yeah, so the new series is its own entity. It's its own channel. It's not on Bench Clear Media. It's not on Baseball Collector. It is on its own deal. It's called Chasing Cardboard. It is something we're trying to make it we're trying to make it TV quality. And the idea is it's just Ty and soon to be myself running around this great nation of ours, looking at collections and trying to buy stuff and just having a great time chasing cardboard. So it's under Chasing. The YouTube channel is Chasing Cardboard. And we had our first episode debut tonight, and it's gotten so far great feedback from people. And I think everybody is enjoying it. So,
buying collections was never something I was good at. I was better as the one, okay, the dealer buys the collection, pulls out what he wants, and then gives me the rest of it, because I could buy the rest of it cheaper, not have to deal with the negotiations, and just say, okay. Right. It was actually easier for me, especially if I knew they were going to make mistakes. I know that sounds weird to say, but I knew what levels to be in at.
Yeah, Ty has been Mr. Keating should join us, by the way. He's not doing anything. He's obviously here. He should come on. But Ty's been buying a lot of collections. That's not my thing either, Rich, to be honest. But I've gotten a few leads here that I'm going to go check out, and we're going to film all of it. And we're going to film the good stuff and the bad stuff. Like if we run across a whole bunch of 89 tops, we're going to film that too, because it's important to be realistic with people that it's not all, Manels and Mays and Koufax and, Lou Alcindor rookies and yada, yada, yada. So we're trying to be as real with people as possible. And it's super fun. It's so much fun to hunt. Right? The hunt is the fun part.
I will tell you that even 89 commons, they're still overproduced. There's still tons of them. They're still cheap. But the standard price pre-pandemic was 10 for a penny. I don't think that's quite the standard price anymore. I think it's a little closer, maybe. I haven't dealt in that world. 5 for a penny, 4 for a penny, instead of 10 for a penny. That was my old standard offer, but that was pre-pandemic, hobby, second or third or fourth or whatever boom you want to call it.
Yeah, and I would always think, like you mentioned just a second ago, and kind of the reverse. But if you're going to look at a collection, like I would be the guy that would just want to pick out. I would want to cherry pick it, right? And unfortunately, most people don't want to do that. They want to sell the whole thing, and so you're stuck buying all the bulk stuff. That's just. I wouldn't say it's worthless. I would say it's worth less, and it's more difficult. It's just a lot of bulk, right? That not everybody has room for.
No, I mean, trust me. I know that about that on bulk. I have 400,000 cards in my work office. And trust me, it's quite of within trying to work through the 400,000 cards.
Yeah.
Because I do make one pull through just to get rid of sometimes the really bad conditioned, overproduced error cards. And one time, my good friend Raymond Jones, and going through some box of a donation, and I have the email in case anybody ever wants to see them, but I prefer not to send them because it's not a card. It's not cards you want to share with the general public. But he found 25 Hustler magazine cards in one of the boxes.
Right.
And so I don't think that's quite appropriate for the family-friendly show I run for the synagogue to give a bag that would have 25 Hustler magazine cards.
So glad that you actually went through them, and instead of just grabbing a stack and putting it in a bag or something, that you looked through it. And
yeah, we look through everything awkward. Because I can live with certain bad things, but that's certain not bad things. I haven't told the story about, I have to show up for my synagogue, and we're going to have one in our new location, but it's definitely going to be a slimmed down version of what it used to be. It'll be Sunday, Monday of Memorial Day weekend, 6000 Custer Road, number 9, Plano, Texas, 75023. I wonder how I know that. And the room I used to use fit somewhere between 40 and 45 tables. I'll probably sneak into 20 tables now in the whole building, and we'll meander, and it's going to definitely be slimmed down from what it was, and there isn't as much parking, and it's a little harder for the dealers to pack and unpack. I want to be transparent and honest. But one show when we were putting cards or doing prizes, somebody sent me a whole bunch of 89 Billy Ripken FF cards. Rick face cards, as Dr. Jim called them. Well, I had to there were a couple of people in the Brotherhood who had been, in the 80s, 90s collecting boom.
Okay.
And they wanted me to give them away as prizes. And I said, no, think about what we are. For me, selling them as part of my normal course of events as a dealer, and I'll give you the money for them, is fine. For us to give them away as prizes, not so much. Think about that for a minute.
Yeah,
and it took a minute for the light bulbs to go off and say, you got a point. So, you have to be cognizant of what your audience is. But if I was just doing a show, my old show, so to speak, that I used to run at a hotel, and I'm not going back to that. And I was doing door prizes or prizes, and somebody sent me a bunch of ribbons, and it was part of the normal course of human events to have the Rick face cards at the giveaway. That would have been fine, because it's not a bad course of human events. And I see the great John Keating has joined us after his successful stint on Saturday morning.
Mediocre at best, sir.
Oh, you were good. You were on point.
Yeah,
besides, I was impressed this morning. I thought I didn't realize, I'd forgotten Gene Simmons was born in Israel, and Chaim Witz was his name.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
And I thought I was good at music stuff.
You're good at real music. I'm good at band
John,
music.
Did you watch the first episode of Chasing Cardboard?
I did, and I'm going to tell you, Mike, I think it's wonderful, the contest you guys are having, but I'm going to tell you I don't have the capacity to follow along with that, but that's a brilliant move to throw little Easter eggs in there.
Yeah, that's part of the marketing ploy, I guess.
That's good, man. You're going to have a lot of takers for that, that's for sure.
But you like the show idea, just in general.
I do, and I'm going to tell you that a lot of my time is occupied with trying to figure out a way to acquire more cards. And I know what kind of collector you are. I'd love to have the quality that you have, but I also quantity is what I'm after. I've told the story before. When I was a kid, I wanted to have every card ever made, and I don't think that's changed. Yeah, so I love the $100 Mickey Mantle tie I got, but I look at all those other cards from those other collections, and boy, it's my thing is sorting and logging stuff in the Beckett OPG. I love it.
Well, you would be in your Shangri-La if you went to Ty's house where he's been putting all of these cards.
Tell me about it, man. I've dreamed about that at night. What he has there, I don't
know if you saw, but he loaded up a U-Haul And he was in Houston when he did that, and he came back up here, and I went and saw the U-Haul and helped him kind of go
Wow.
just kind of go through it, just a quick, certainly not everything because it was in a driveway, and it was absolutely bonkers. And he's got 4 more like that he's bought, and it's all at his house. And I went to his house a few weeks ago, and it is absolutely, I went into this giant, it's not a barn, it's a metal building that's, I don't know, 800 square feet, and it's full of cards. It is.
So he doesn't set up the shows. He's strictly online. Is that his
He's
deal?
about to start setting up at shows.
You're going to have to with that much volume, right?
His inventory
Yeah.
is overwhelming. Literally, I only spent maybe 2 hours in the garage. I'll call it the garage, wherever all those cards were. I just couldn't take it. It was too much. So I pulled all the vintage stuff and I went and sorted all that for him, because he's good at vintage, but he's not like,
Right.
he's learning too. And so I was able to show him some stuff, and he had some great stuff.
He's big on the basketball, isn't he? He's a big,
he loves basketball for sure.
Years.
But
yeah.
I'm glad you like the show.
For sure.
We're putting a lot of effort into that.
Yeah.
And so.
And I'll be honest, I might have watched it this morning, except my simple 8:30 a.m. visit to the dentist, which is why I was able to watch one of our another fellow Hobby Hotline hosts, Bo's show live this morning. To have my temporary put back in, well, ended up being a 3-hour extravaganza.
Ooh.
Well, no, the permanent showed up. They come out to see me at 8:45. Can you wait a half hour? Your permanent's on its way.
Wow.
So, John, I want to ask you a couple of things since you're here. You just said you processed you just got done processing your last collection. How do you find them?
2 ways. There's Facebook Marketplace. There's a lot of competition where I am, but I can type in a 100-mile radius for my house, but I can hit DC or Baltimore, and I can hit New York out of that. So it's a pretty wide swath, but there is a lot of competition. Another thing I've done is the internet. I guess the internet classifies or internet bulletin boards or neighborhood bulletin boards. We have something called the patch, so I can put in either my area or other municipalities around me. I can essentially run an ad for $13 for a couple weeks that says I'm buying collections, and I've got a lot of stuff that way. That's how I got my I did an episode on my Nolan Ryan collection that I bought that just happened to have an unopened Mike Trout rookie box there that I had the guy toss in, which essentially paid for the whole collection. Once I had the thing for 3 hours, and I sold it at the Philly show as soon as I got it. But that's those are the 2 methods now. Word of mouth, but mostly it's that. And I'm kind of in a dry spell right now. I'm in a I need to I don't know how you get out of a bad streak, but I'm in it right now. I'm not really getting any there's nothing coming in right now, which is a shame. But
John, I discovered every time I'm finished processing a donation, when I finished processing and I was up to 190,000 cards, I breathed a sigh of relief and said, oh, good, I finally caught up. I've got a nice amount of cards for the show. Anything extra we can just sell after the show. Literally the day after I breathed a sigh of relief, oh, my taxes got goofed up this year, and I need to do a tax write-off. I have 150,000 cards for you.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
And
it's but that's part of that. That had nothing's changed in 45 years. I love taking the cards out of the packs and sorting them out, and then Dr. Jim's talked about it, but I like making order out of chaos. So I need more chaos to straighten out in my life, I guess.
And I want to introduce you all to the only person that has visitation rights during the show.
Well, if you look behind me, there's a baseball carpet, but there's a dog bed on it. So I've got the same setup here.
This is my superstar fur baby daughter, Charlie, who was originally Charlene. And then when we got her, mommy and grandma didn't want to, so Charlene was too hard, so they wanted to call her Charlie, which was close enough. And Charlie has a habit of going through garbage pails, so I call her Charlie Chew. So her other name in addition to Charlie is Chewy.
Got to get some taller garbage pails so she
What?
can't reach in there.
Yeah,
Taller trash
she
cans,
likes she has a truly of a one-track mind.
Most dogs
You know,
do. They just want to be with their humans, right?
But
I've
we
always
love her
been
even with her one-track mind.
I've been one of those guys that's always thought, at some point, quote unquote, all the collections will be bought up, and the reality is that's probably not true.
Right.
There's just always going to be stuff out there that's been hidden for however long. I think it'll shrink, especially the more mainstream cards get, the more people hear about it. They want to, oh, I have a bunch of stuff from grandpa or my dad or
Right. Boomers,
Uncle
right?
Charlie or whatever.
The boomers are, stuff we look at, Mike. The boomers are, they're not getting any younger, unfortunately, and that stuff pops into somebody's hands or laps that they don't know what to do with. So,
Yeah.
And here's the other thing with collections like that. I mean, it's sad, but people get sick, people pass, people get tired of cards. So there's even some of the ecosystem where even though you think all the collections are gone, some of them get returned, into our mainstream instead of just being, hidden away forever.
So, John, if something happens to me, you want me to have Julie call you and
yeah, I'll take Norman.
you can come on down?
Yeah. I'll take Norman and a couple cards.
There you go. John, do you and this is something that I just thought of, and we'll bring it up for discussion because over the weekend I had a fellow YouTuber was in town watching the Rangers and the Braves, and he's from Kentucky, and he came over to my house. And at the beginning of my YouTube career, that was always weird. It's like, man, how do you let people were like, how do you let strangers into your house? And the answer is, the point is to share it.
Yeah.
And it's not that you just let anybody, but at the same time, if you've known a guy for a couple of years and know what they are, and I mean, this guy's a district attorney, for crying out loud. It's not like he's just some schmo off the street. And
Right.
My question to you after saying all that is, do you let people come and visit your collection and check it out, or have you had the opportunity to do that?
Yeah, not that the answer on that is have I, and the answer is no. I've had friends and relatives and stuff like that, and I've had people over my house. Funny you say that about, I don't know, 20 years ago, the Eagles were really good in going to the championship, NFC championship game every year, and I was part of a gang from the that we only knew each other from the internet, and so I had a couple guys come in from town to sleep over my house, and my wife looked at me like I was crazy. It's like, where did you meet these dudes? There was no Facebook back then. It was strictly AOL news groups, and so I got a little side eye from that from my wife, and not that I'd be opposed to it now from somebody coming over, but it hasn't happened. And the Philly show, incidentally, is probably a 10-minute drive from my house, and that's a pretty big show. So there's opportunities there. It's just I'm never in town probably when somebody else would be in town. But with that said, there's a whole army coming down to Dallas in a couple weeks, including myself. So
You are so lucky you have the Philly show 10 minutes from your house.
Yeah. I grew up in Valley Forge, and now I live near Phoenixville, which is just past Valley Forge. So.
Yeah,
Well, Valley Forge Convention Center. They once bid to have a national there. It didn't win, but there was a bid actually in the day for the Valley Forge Convention Center to hold a national.
It's a great area. King of Prussia is a great area. Every restaurant under the sun, biggest mall per leasable real estate in the country or in North America, bigger than Edmonton, bigger than Mall of America. But it'd be a horrible place to have the national.
Did you ever go when they had the show at the old Willow Grove George Washington Motor?
And the one in King of Prussia too. I've been to both of them, and I've said that to Dr. Jim. And you as well, Rich. We've walked the same halls. Of course, I was 8 years old at the time or 10 years old at the time, but you and I walked the same halls. Used to go to all those shows back in the day. So yeah, those they're as you guys describe them. Those places were so seedy. They're as you guys described them. So, but yeah,
Now,
but
tell me.
go ahead.
Sorry, John. I was going to say, tell me about coming to Dallas. Are you excited?
Yeah, I was at. That's where I met Rich there last September. I think it was September. It was at the Dallas
Yeah,
show.
I think you came for September or October, whichever
Yeah.
the fall show.
And then I enjoyed it very much. I liked it. There's a lot of modern there, but there's a lot of vintage too, as opposed to like I've been to the Vegas card show, and that's essentially all modern, which isn't my cup of tea. So there's something for everybody at the Dallas card show, which is great. But yeah, I think in fact more and more people are coming down. I'm talking
And I
to
think
somebody
you
right
and
now.
thank you for helping John Newman come down too. We got another of our hobby hotline hosts coming down.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
gonna
think
be
we're going to
awesome.
have any problem doing a guest shot on that Saturday from the event.
Have to it's just more Chick-fil-A to share with everybody else, I guess, right? That's the
Hey,
unfortunate
nothing
part.
wrong with Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A has some of the best customer service in the world.
Right.
Except for the time when we used to have company lunches at Beckett, and it was about maybe once every 2 or 3 months. We ordered Chick-fil-A once for no Chewy. We ordered Chick-fil-A once for lunch. The lunch was supposed to begin at 12, and Chick-fil-A showed up at 1:30.
Well, you know what else you guys have down there now is In and Out. You have
We
In
have
and Out,
almost
which
anything within 10 minutes.
yeah,
Almost within 10 minutes of the show, you can
Yep.
find
Yep.
all sorts of food options. It's pretty amazing.
So
Even
that's
honestly, even though a lot of them are changed, the shopping center right across from the street has 8 or 9 places to eat. So you're not stuck at the hotel either. If you're staying at the hotel, you can literally just walk. And I know this because my office is across the street.
right.
But they have, I mean, if you like, it's decent supermarket food. There's a Market Street. There's the Panera chain. There's a PF Chang's chain.
Right.
They have Brio's is a chain. They have Cheesecake Factory. There's a Village Burger Bar, which is a very good burger place. Grimaldi's Pizza, which is a smaller
That's
chain.
good.
That's a
Yep.
chain.
That's at the Venetian in Vegas. They have one there. Yeah.
So, I mean,
Looking forward to it though. It's going to be a good show. I'm just going to miss Rich not having a table, but
yeah, but you got an office of mine you can visit.
right, that'd be great. I'll bring a big suitcase.
There's literally, you'll see that there's like me, a table, and then 400,000 cards. Yeah. There's another table in there because I had no cards when we put in the table for Angela and Stefan. Well, they don't have a place to sit now and there. They have to find another place when they come up. But yeah,
you get 2 75-pound bags with American Airlines for free. So
yeah,
I'm ready to go.
So I have to ask John, are you going to come over
to where? Your place?
Yeah,
I'll come over, man. I'll be there in a heartbeat.
You and John's been here. John Newman's been here.
Yeah.
You can follow the old cardboard smell, and it'll lead you. Now I am.
It's all plastic there. What are you talking about? It's all encapsulated.
I got plenty of raw. I got plenty of raw stuff.
Okay, speaking about encapsulation, and Mike, I know you're a big PSA guy, and since this is Hobby Hotline, let's actually talk about something first. Well, I love this conversation. Let's actually talk about a newsy thing. PSA eBay's new announcement. And Mike, you got the email today, so why don't you?
It's right there. I got this email today from eBay talking about the new authenticity guarantee is expanding. Graded cards are now included, $2,000 plus, which will be lowered in the not too distant future. And I'll just read this to you guys. And I mean, I know you can read it on screen, but
really.
Thorough,
Rich is reaching for the glasses, so am I.
Documented process. Raw cards and sealed plastic holders are inspected to ensure you're getting exactly what you ordered. Authenticated cards come with a QR code linking to card details. We've partnered with professional grading companies CGC, CSG, and PSA who bring decades of experience to the process. eBay covers all the costs for a limited time. So there's a lot of things there for discussion. you know, obviously they've been doing raw cards now for a couple of months, and I haven't had one go through that process, so I don't, I can't tell you from personal experience. But the idea and PSA is going to handle all of the slab authentication and whatever that looks like, meaning, and they're going to be looking at BGS slabs or Beckett slabs. I mean,
Right.
they'll be looking at CSG and SGC slabs, and I just wonder, like, what are they looking for? Are they trying to look to see if it's a legit slab? Are they looking to see if the card inside? And Rich, you've got to tell the point that you said off air when we were talking about this, bringing it up, because I
Remember,
think it's brilliant.
according to what I read in Rich Muller Sports Collectors Daily this morning, this is a separate division of PSA. Can you imagine if PSA finds a card, the PSA graded, that's not real? Remember, it doesn't talk about what the grade is. If there's a hidden crease, that's not what they're looking for. But can you imagine if they find something they're worried about the authenticity for that's already in the PSA slab?
How can you check authenticity on an
They have all these
encapsulated card?
AI things. I know that they spent a lot of money on some of these new things.
So I've got a couple things here. First of all, Mike, you and Ty were right on the money with, and I thought this when they announced the original deal, the unslabbed authentication is, you're going to pay for it in your fees eventually. Nothing's free forever, right? And then, do you think, did PSA knock on their eBay's door, or did eBay knock on PSA's door? Did PSA want to say, whoa, wait a minute here, we don't want you guys getting both legs in bed with CSG, make room for us? Or, how do you think this transpired?
I think that eBay went to PSA, would be my guess. Because I think eBay's been shopping this service to all the grading companies. Some have said no, some have said yes, and some have said later. And I think later was PSA, and now they're getting caught up on their backlog, although they're not done by any stretch. But if what you're saying, Rich, is true, that it's a separate division, it's why don't they put those resources towards grading cards? I don't know.
Which doesn't make any sense. That's why it leads me to believe that possibly PSA was the instigator here, just because of that. Like, if somebody came to you saying, we want to make your life a little bit more difficult for something that won't benefit you, it seems like PSA instigated this, or didn't say no when eBay knocked on the door again the second time around.
Well, eBay is certainly paying for this service for PSA to do it, right? And again, it's free for now. Yeah, I can't remember. Ty told me the number, and I don't know it off the top of my head, but card sales account for a surprisingly large proportion of eBay sales.
Right.
Sports cards and trading card sales, trading game, TCGs. It's shocking to me. And
I know you were surprised at the amount of $2,000+ cards.
I was. Yeah. Ty ran that yesterday because I was like, well, how many cards would that have been last month, for example? And Ty looked it up, and it was, I can't remember the number.
Right? It was 4,000 or 5,000, depending on the month.
4,000 or 5,000 more things that they're going to have to look at and take care of, and then ship. It's got to be shipped to PSA. Now, is this going to be done at the PSA New Jersey office or California or both? Right. I don't know. But it'll be shipped to them, and then they'll do their thing and send it back to you with this awesome display, custom packaging that you're going to have a nice new stand to put your slab in. I personally think they are butt ugly, but what do I know? So it's
okay. So to read the one column, when a graded card is sold for more than $2,000 in the U.S., the seller will send it to PSA. A newly established team, independent from PSA's core group that is working on its existing backlog, will verify that the card matches its listing description. The team will also ensure that the sealed plastic holder and label are authentic and have not been tampered with or counterfeited.
Can you read that again? Read that last line again. Just the seal is authentic, or
the team will also ensure that the sealed plastic holder and label are authentic and have not been tampered with or counterfeited.
So the card's irrelevant then. It's just a slab.
No, it does say, well, the card matches its listing description. So it doesn't, I don't know if it really says that you're right. There is that gray area where it doesn't quite explain, are they verifying the card?
So now we're getting our slabs,
and then making graded. A decision saying.
Yeah. Well, here's a question, rhetorical maybe, I don't know, but I see a lot of listings where a card will be listed as a PSA 9, but an 8, for example, but it's an 8 OC or an 8 PD or an 8 ST. It has a qualifier. Yeah. And one of the big deals on the raw side is that a card is not either in the title or description is not being accurately portrayed, and therefore it's being returned to the seller because they didn't describe it right. Right? That's what I'm hearing. Is that true? I wonder if that will be true if you buy a high dollar qualifier card, which I guess you could do it on like a huge rookie or something, like a Mantle rookie or Mays rookie or something. It would be over $2,000 even with a qualifier, and they didn't put that in the listing. Would that negate that card from being sold? I don't know.
Several months ago, my local card store had a trade night. And there's a young man I know, and he was showing me proudly his 51 Bowman Mays 5 MC. Really nice card, and he bought it under comps. He was very happy, and we agreed it was a good deal. And it led to some a couple good podcasts I did with Dr. Jim. And it also, though, was one of these cases. He was comfortable. And if they, what if they tell him no? And he says, I'm fine with that card as it is. Don't tell me it's not good. I want that card exactly as it is. I bid $13,000 on that card, or I spent $13,000 on buy it now, and I saw exactly what it was. I mean, so there's that too.
What about PAX? Are PAX part of this?
Nothing yet on PAX, but that may be coming next for BBCE. If it's going to be PAX, it's going to be Steve Hart.
Yeah, but is he qualified is he qualified to pass judgment on whether a slab is intact and never been tampered?
That's going to be interesting, and we'll see. But I just think that'll be a fascinating thing to see what happens.
Right.
But that's important news in terms of people wanting to feel better about the cards that they buy on eBay or $2,000 cards. You want to feel better about it. I mean, granted, for some people, $2,000 is a drop in the bucket. But for most of us, if we were to spend $2,000 on a card, I might definitely want a second opinion. Hey, you bought correctly, not for pricing, but you bought legit.
I would think you
didn't get swindled.
This is more of a problem.
It's not a resealed holder or anything.
I think this is more of a problem out in the wild than on eBay or any of the other places.
Well, eBay wants to make themselves safer, so that's fine. If it makes it a safer marketplace for eBay, it's not a bad move. It's a good move. It's a good, safe move.
Here's an interesting from Sanderson. This is an opportunity for PSA to get their hands on their competitor's product and search for problems and publicize them to manipulate the view that they are the best. That seems very conspiracy theory type idea. I mean, it's not like all they're going to do is return the card. It's not like they're going to publish, look what we found, that I don't see an avenue where that would be publicized, honestly.
And if it's too obvious, PSA will get backlash. So
right.
that might only happen if it's a really egregious super expensive card. But I agree with you, Mike. I don't think it's going to be a big issue in terms of PSA doing that. You're
Yeah.
right.
You'd have
You've
to
got
expose your
that.
own warts if you did that, right? You'd have
Yeah,
to.
you've got that big of a company. You don't
Yep.
want. You start doing that. You don't. Trolling your competition
Right.
isn't fun.
So
And
John,
fortunately, that's not one of these guys are about. PSA doesn't operate that way. SGC doesn't operate that way, and we assume CSG doesn't operate that way as well. So that's the good thing about these guys aren't trying to undercut each other. They're trying to kind of share the space. Obviously, PSA's got a bigger chunk of it, but they're all trying to coexist, I guess.
And by the
John, I
way,
want
Don's fields a card. Just so when I'm looking at that comment, just when we just discussed that, this is not an entity of people already doing the standard PSA grading. This is a new group. So these do not affect the PSA catch up. And by the way, PSA graded approximately 825,000 cards last month. So they're on pace to catch up in 5-6 months at the most.
I was at
Their
PSA 2
backlog-
weeks ago, and there were a lot of food trucks in the parking lot. It looked like there was a lot of eating and not a lot of grading going on.
Yeah, you got to go to Rob Veers' store. You had a great trip.
Yeah, big trip.
I have to tell you on this guy right here, Baseball Hall of Fame autographs. His name is Frank. Hello, Frank. Glad
Frank's
to join.
awesome.
Thanks for joining us. Frank has been here. He can give you some advice, John, on where to start when you get to my house and where to start looking, and he can tell you all the ins and outs there.
I had a Zoom chat with Frank about my taxes a few months back. He's a great guy.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, absolutely. He's a wonderful guy, and I love his. I don't collect autographs. I know you guys do. I have 2 autographs that I've gotten in my life, and but I love watching. I love watching his content. I think he does a great job.
Yeah, he's pretty great. He was just on my last podcast. Actually, we did.
Yep, I commented on that, by the way. Right?
Yeah,
about Kurt Flood.
Yep. Kurt Flood needs a little more love. Okay, so where does this ultimately go? I guess on the PSA thing, or on the authenticity thing.
Cynically,
it goes to a cheaper price. It's not going to stay, as we've said. It's not going to stay at $2,000. It'll go down. And remember, as PSA, one of the things is, and I say this constantly, and it's true for PSA. It's true for all the graders. It's also true, for ComC where I worked. We all hired a lot of people during the pandemic. If they're doing good work, and you've got ways to keep them employed, you do things to increase your business. This is a way to increase your business so you don't have to lay off people, so you can keep your best people working.
So are you saying they're crisis actors here? Are they creating a crisis with,
No, I think, but they've done this for sneakers. eBay's done this for sneakers. They do this for watches. This isn't a crisis. This is a service they're already providing. And they're thinking, as we talked about how big the card business is for them, this is a service that they want to do. And yes, it's not a crisis, but I think it's the expression in politics goes, it's what a solution in search of a problem.
Right. Well,
I don't think this is a solution in search of a problem. I think this is actually something that if you had said this 3-4 years ago, everybody would have said, what a great idea. Verification of your cards.
Well, isn't that what encapsulation is to begin with? Verification. Now we got to verify our verification, right?
There are people who have done that before. This is not even a first-time concept. But, if you have the market leader, and I think there's little doubt that PSA, I got the email from GemRate today, and PSA graded approximately 825,000 cards last month, according to GemRate. And SGC, CSG, and Beckett combined for approximately 225,000 cards, give or take. So PSA graded 3.5 times, because I didn't do the math quite right, but PSA graded 3.5 times the amount of their next 3 competitors combined. That's just an unbelievable stat.
What do you think the submission rate is right now to the top four companies? Because it's the big
Well,
four now.
I
Do you
read
think
that
that that's the
PSA
same?
is an 85-15 right now. It'll probably get closer to as the backlog catches up. It'll get to, you know, very little backlog soon enough.
What I'm saying is, if all things equal, you know, those numbers are cards that have been in the system for a year or so, right? That they're grading for the most part. So clean slate. What do you think the percentage their market share is moving forward? Not on what cards they're grading each week, because most of those are old cards. What do you think
Well,
it
I
is
Well,
right
also
now?
then
think that's unfair because PSA isn't yet accepting their full range of cards. And so I know SGC, they're doing turnaround in 20 to 25 days. So they're pretty much caught up. CSG doesn't really have a backlog. And Beckett is now accepting brand new cards, $30 for no subgrades, $50 for with subgrades. When you grade the cards in the normal service, I think it's 30 business days or something like that. So they're all accepting cards now. And the question is what will end up being the price point all these companies do to get their business, and I'm going to go on the assumption that the $8 to $12 PSA days are gone. What will be the price point that people think will be acceptable for both them to keep churning out enough cards and their collectors and their customers to send in enough cards?
you're going to see SGC and the others at $20 a card. You're going to see PSA at $25 a card. And
I've been saying 20 to 25 a month for PSA for a long time. I might even say 15 for SGC, CSG,
but
and
John, to answer your question, I think PSA, if you were to wipe the slate totally clean right now and say, all right, you can send your cards, even if they were the same price, let's say they're all the same price, because that will matter to people. And let's say it's $20, let's just call it $20. PSA will still get 70% of the business.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that they're the behemoth here. I'm just wondering if it's. I think that the real time submissions, all things being equal, I think that the 85-15 thing drops significantly, and 70, you know, as opposed to 85 is significant. Now the biggest thing is CSG cutting into whose market share here? Is it Beckett's? Is it PSA's? I mean, SGC seems to be doing their own thing and doing it very well. So I'm curious as to.
okay, well, the gem rate stats did say both Beckett and CSG were 4% higher than they were in March.
Right.
SGC was down about 9%,
Oh,
but March
okay.
was their all-time record. And PSA was down a few percent, but they were still over 800,000 cards. So that's a lot of cards they did.
So who wins the national then out of these four companies? Because the
it'll,
national
it'll,
last year was different, but they have to be going full steam into the national, looking to win hearts and minds.
I would wager it'll be PSA again. I mean, look, the people were paying $150 a card last year for PSA at the national.
Who else was there last year?
Beckett
All of
was
them.
there.
Were they
And
They're
all
all
grading
there.
on site?
SGC was not
SGC was
there. The
not
only two
grading. Yeah.
people
No,
grading on site were PSA and Beckett
No,
among the
CGC,
majors. I don't
CGC
remember.
was
Oh, and
grading on site.
CSG was there too. I'm sorry. CSG was there too.
Yep. And they were grading on site.
And they were grading on site.
So
But PSA had by far the biggest line at 150 a card.
I paid that, by the way.
What was it, Mike? Tell us what card it was.
You are a very worthy man, Mr. Moynihan.
Well, I had a 50 Bowman Jackie and a 48 Bowman Mutual. So they were worthy.
I paid. I like to rub it in a little and say I paid $25 for my 50 Jackie Bowman
Oh my gosh.
back in the early '80s. I didn't know what the heck I was doing.
I paid a little more than that. But
Finally got it slabbed past summer, but yeah, took a while.
so we got some great comments coming in. I want to let's see.
There are junk slabs now, Logan, by the way.
Yeah, we're in the junk slab era now. Welcome to it. You're in it. The good news is everything seems to be pointing to cards becoming more and more popular. That's an interesting. That could be a whole topic. Are sports cards gaining popularity, losing, or maintaining their
That's
popularity?
Fanatics Kool-Aid right there, I think, right? That's what.
Yeah, I mean, I would, if I had to pick one of those three choices, I would probably say maintaining. I don't know that the hobby is growing a ton right now, but I could certainly see data that would convince me otherwise. I think the national is going to be very telling this year on where we are in the hobby, because you're going to see how many people, like last year was a zoo, right? And so is this year going to be similar or better? I mean, if you went off the Dallas card show, the last Dallas card show I went to in what was it, March, was packed. I mean, absolutely packed, which shocked me. I thought that everything was cooling down a little bit.
Right.
So I really think that national is going to be a great litmus test for the state and health of the hobby in the moment, just to see how many people show up.
I think it's going to be more pure too, because you're not going to have the Target parking lot crowd there this year. Not that you did last year, but I think it's going to be more pure collecting demographic than in the past. Than
Less Pelican cases running around.
well, they'll always be there, right? But yeah, I mean, just I think it's not a fad anymore like it was 2021 or.
Well, if you want to see less Pelican cases at the Dallas card shows, come to the Starlight Room.
Right.
I promise you, we don't get overloaded with Pelican cases in that room.
This is a great point. If the national was in Chicago this year, that would probably be a better litmus test. AC is going to detract some people simply because of the perceived difficulty to travel there, the perceived difficulty of AC, just the city, and the people don't want to be there and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, most of the people live on the East Coast of the United States, though. I know.
But as John knows from living near Valley Forge, if you're within driving distance, you'll get yourself to Atlantic City.
Yeah.
So there's a huge collecting base in the megalopolis, and if you're a serious collector in the megalopolis, you'll make your way to Atlantic City. So it hurts in terms of getting people to fly in because it's a friggin' pain, but it doesn't hurt in terms of attendance to that extent because they'll drive to it from
more day trippers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Frank's absolutely right, though. The location's horrible. And we talked about that Saturday. And, I would not be opposed. I don't care. It's not controversial, or if it is controversial, I wouldn't be opposed to Chicago being the permanent home of the National, that venue, because it's got its ease of transportation as well as plenty of hotels and restaurants around there. Cleveland doesn't have both of those things. Atlantic City doesn't have both of those things.
John, I agree with you, and I've brought this up to John Brogy on more than one occasion about Chicago, and his answer has always been, if we do it in Chicago every year, it'll end up being nothing more than just an oversized regional show.
I disagree.
And here's a point. I know there's a lot of people saying, why don't we go to the West Coast? Well, about a week or so ago, there was a fascinating discussion among many dedicated SABR members, Society of American Baseball Research members. And a few years ago, they had a show in San Diego, and they try to do the national convention in California or the West Coast every 5 years or so, give or take. How much do you think, and I want to point out that they had 700 people staying usually between 3 and 5 nights. What do you think in San Diego the hotel rate per night was that SABR was able to procure?
400 or 500, I guess, right?
What, John?
400 or 500.
Mike?
350.
295.
That's not bad.
It's not bad.
It's
most of the people say, these are not baseball card dealers. We're not making money back.
No, I understand that, but San Diego isn't. San Diego is what it is.
I
house
get
in
that.
San Diego would cost $2.5 million. It's not $2.5 million house that I live in, right? But you know what? The argument for the West Coast that I always make, the last national I attended was 1991, which is still, I assume, the record attendance. So for people to say nobody will go to a West Coast National, I don't think is accurate either, because the data says that they would.
Well,
The empirical data.
in all honesty, the biggest problem with doing a West Coast National is that, and especially as the dealer base, I want to say, has gotten older to some extent. You still have a lot of the same dealers from 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years ago. They don't want to travel from the Midwest to the East Coast to the West Coast.
Give up their tables then. Let somebody else come in.
Right, but the point is that if too many of them give it up, would you be able to find replacements?
I don't know. You know that better than I do, but I always hear about the waiting list.
With you, it's not as easy as you think to get the replacements at the more expensive price points. So, I will, however, say that the tables I like to shop at, you like to shop at the National, it's like going to a supermarket. What's the best place to do? You shop the corners.
You're right.
You go to the back corners. Oh, that's where Singles Club is. We all hung out at Singles Club last year. Mike's on a different level. He's doing things like 50 Bowman, Ted Williams. So
he's waiting in line at PSA. Right?
Yes,
with his platinum card.
But many of us who do that, we shop the back corners of the National, because that's where the people we're looking for are. But the tables are probably a little bit cheaper there too. They're not going to be the front tables of the show. And the front tables definitely have a premium. And I agree with you. You can give up your tables for a year. They do have passes you can do every few years. And I know there are several dealers that take their pass for Atlantic City. But
how much is a table for the National all in? I'm talking about just a table rental, not the expenses of a dealer, but just to set.
The table rental was, well, one of my friends who has one of the front tables, and I'm going to talk about his whole expense. And he's a single guy, and he travels, and he doesn't stay at the expensive hotels. And his total expense last year was about $3,000. That includes table, hotel, and getting there. I think the table's $1,250,
okay,
$1,500, $2,000, depending on where you are.
So there's several revenue streams for the National, right? There's the tables, there's the tickets, and then there's the autographs. What do you think?
And don't forget when we say tables, there's also the corporate booth.
Right, sure. Well, that's a trade. You're right. The trade show element there, right? So, what do you think is the biggest? What do they clear the most on?
I think the most profitable part is the corporates.
Okay.
Because
and then maybe the tickets, right? And then because the tickets are essentially, other than whatever you have to pay to, online fees you have to pay for the ticket, which is baked into the ticket cost. That's almost pure. Essentially, I think the tables probably pay for the venue, possibly, right?
That's what you're supposed to do when you're a promoter. Is your tables pay for tables pay for everything, and then everything else becomes gravy. Right. That's what you're supposed to do. And remember, I want to use the term outsource, and that may not be totally accurate. But remember, the people running the National don't run the Autograph Pavilion. That's TriStar,
right, okay.
And TriStar is part of the National, but they're not the people running the booths at the National or the corporate. TriStar is does the autographs separately.
I guarantee you, if in the next year or two, and they won't do this, but if they did a San Francisco National, let's say,
that's expensive, Mike.
Huh?
San Jose, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, San Jose,
right.
Somewhere West Coast. They would, and all let's say all the East Coast dealers that don't want to fly, bow out. They would still sell out every table. They would have an amazing attendance. Mm-hmm. They would have, and all the corporates are going to go. Of course, they don't care where it is. So the National would lose nothing other than, I think there's this old school loyalty, Rich, to these East Coast dealers that have been going to the National forever and blah, blah, blah. I think that's short-sighted, honestly.
I agree.
And I think they need to expand their footprint, let's say it, and go to you're going to piss off some East Coast dealers. So what? Let them be pissed off. I mean, they can come back when we go back to Chicago or wherever, but
go back and listen to the podcast Dr. Jim and I did with the Brogy family. And I forgot if we did one or two last year. and we discussed a lot of these very topics with the people running the National. And
Well,
I will tell you that they do due diligence in looking for other places too.
And
Because,
it's easier for them to do the places they've already done. I mentioned that
right, I
Saturday.
mean, and like
Yeah.
Chicago, the one thing that's really good about Chicago, and frankly, Atlantic City, those people know how to run the shows. I mean, in Chicago, they had something last year that I thought was off the charts good on Saturday, and I didn't see it early Sunday, but you could leave if you were bringing luggage in to the show instead of having to figure out where you wanted to keep it at your
Right.
table. They had a
Yeah.
place in the hallway. Well, I'll call it the hallway. They had a place
Bag
in the
check
hallway
or
that would
whatever.
store your luggage for you. Yes, there
Right.
was a fee,
Right.
but guess what? My God, I don't have to look for a place for my luggage.
We'll
I've
pay an
got,
extra night. Yeah. Right.
I mean, the convention center thought of that. They know how to run a show, and they know what's needed for a show, and there's something to be said for that. The Dallas Card Show, they're still learning on what to do for the card show.
Yeah. Well, they have to watch there too in Dallas because I think they're bulging at the seams. That place, they pack that place there. The hallways are packed.
Logan, I don't know if it's free, but I will say that they do get a very good rate for the Atlantic City Convention Center.
It's based on room nights, Logan, and F&B. So room nights booked, expected spend on those room nights. There's a whole formula there. It works for most conventions, actually.
And I will say that Anaheim is a great place to run the National in terms of the social. And then if you want to spend your arm and a leg to go to Disney or Knott's Farm or whatever, there's enough hotels near the show.
Yep, plenty.
You're going to have a decent hotel thing within walking distance of the show. But Anaheim really doesn't want us. Believe me, Mike Burkus, who, one of the founders of the National, with his three partners at the time, he lived in friggin' Anaheim. Don't you think he wanted to host a show in his hometown for all those years? And he never got, after 2006, he never got to host a show in his hometown. I mean,
just think, Denver, Dallas, Atlanta, there are plenty of big cities.
I will tell you point blank, the biggest problem with Dallas, and you live near enough there, Mike, there's not enough hotel rooms downtown near the Dallas Convention Center.
Well, you wouldn't do it there. You do it at Jerry World or...
Can Jerry World fit us? Seriously? Is there a place? I don't think there's a place in Jerry World area that fits us.
Yeah, and the Dallas Convention Center is pretty terrible, actually.
Yeah, but
it is. It's a little disjointed, but
that's your best place to have the show. Dallas Convention Center fits us. No other place that I know of in the DFW area fits us.
Right.
So and plus a lot of your corporates, I guarantee you, people at Beckett, people at Heritage, people at Leaf, people at
Panini,
I guarantee you the last thing they want to do is have a show in Dallas.
Yeah.
I guarantee you that. They want to get out of town in the middle of summer.
Well, guys, we have had a wonderful hour here talking. John, thanks for hopping on and helping us get through this hour. Rich and I we could just talk vintage, but
of course.
You could have fit in perfect with that too. But thanks everybody for watching. Thank you, Rich. Thank you, John. And we will see you guys later.
Thank you, gents.
I got to get to our outro
closing video.
Yep. See you guys later.
Bye.
Okay, you're still live. I don't think we've ended the broadcast.